Okay. Good. My name is Dr. Ijoma Ezika. I'm a lecturer in the Department of Electronic Engineering, UNN, and I welcome us all to the Mind the Gap webinar. Mind the Gap webinar is organized by Clintonel Innovation Center, ABA, in collaboration with the Department of Electronic Engineering. A bit of information about what E4I is. E4I is Engineering for Industry. It's a project that is designed to bridge the skills gap in Nigeria between engineering education and the industry. And we hope to achieve this by creating partnerships and collaborative opportunities between Nigeria's tertiary institutions, government agencies, and the industry. This will enable the institutions to understand the specific needs of Nigerian engineering industries and align our engineering education to meet these needs. It will also enable commercialization of our research outputs from institutions. E4I will train engineering lecturers, fresh graduates to acquire industry relevant skills. At this point, we would like to acknowledge our sponsors. The E4I project is supported by the ACT Foundation and Engineering X, an international collaboration that is founded by the Royal Academy of Engineering. So before we kick off, I would like to introduce the lead partner in the E4I project. That is engineer Clinton Nsukka, who is the CEO of Clintonel Innovation Center. To just give us a brief introduction of what CIC is, what the company does, and we will talk about the opportunities at the end of the event. Thank you. Clinton, please.
Okay, good morning all. Am I audible? Okay,
yes,
so
we can hear you.
Yes, you are.
Yes, so thank you all for being a part of this. Clintonel Innovation Center, CIC, is an engineering tech hub that's located in Aba. At CIC, we provide training, mentoring, and equipment for young people to create engineering innovations, develop indigenous products, and become entrepreneurs. So our vision is to build a nation that creates and produces the technology that she consumes. Unlike what we have today, we have to import virtually everything we consume. So our vision is to have a Nigeria which creates and then consumes what it and produces what it consumes. Then our mission as an organization is to build capacity in Nigeria, capacity in engineering innovation, indigenous product development, and manufacturing. And as part of our mission and vision, that's how we developed the engineering for industry project, of course in partnership with the electronic design department of University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and the Aba Chamber of Commerce, ACCIMA. So we hope that through this project we'll be able to work with partners to transform Nigerian engineering education such that we can, import less and then produce more and then create industries, support industries, create employment, and build a great nation. So thank you. We'll share more details about the E4I project before the end of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Clinton. Just a bit of housekeeping. This is Zoom webinar. Is different from the Zoom meeting. So attendees will only be able to ask questions. So if you see below on your application, you will see a Q&A. Feel free to ask any questions at any time. You will not be able to talk. Only the panelists can talk. Okay, thank you. So we'll go ahead to introduce the moderator and the speaker. So we kick off the discussion. First is the moderator. He's joining us from South Nigeria, Engineer Alison Okoli. He's a graduate of Electronic Engineering, UNN, and he currently works as a project engineer at Schlumberger Oilfield Services. Welcome, Engineer Alison.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Thank you. And on On the panel is engineer Oluremi Hamid. She is the CEO of Hydren Energy Limited, a leading company in Africa for the implementation of alternative energy systems. She joins us from Southwest Nigeria. Engineer Oluremi, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, thank you. And from Southeast Nigeria is engineer Dr. Clifford Ugomoji, sorry, excuse me, sir. He is a civil engineer and a lecturer at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He's the coordinator of Student Industrial Work Experience Scheme, that's CWES in UNN, and he is a national vice president, Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN. You're welcome, Dr. Moji.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, from Lagos, Nigeria, we are joined by engineer Nana Madu. Nana is a graduate of electronic engineering, UNN, and he is the head of software at Simfix Limited. You're welcome, engineer Nana.
Thank you, Jamal. Thank you for having me.
And finally, we have Professor Cosmas Ani. He is a lecturer at the Department of Electronic Engineering, UNN, and he's a professor of communication engineering. You're welcome, Professor.
Thank you for having me, IJ.
So I will hand over to the moderator, Engineer Allison, who would give us a brief introduction about his career path, and then he will man the discussion.
All right. Thank you, Ijama. Welcome, everybody, both our wonderful panelists and the participants we have on the line. This is, I think, a fantastic initiative because you have to, first of all, acknowledge that there is a problem and there has to be a will to solve that problem. This is where I think we start. So my name is Alison. I am a graduate of UNN, like Ijama already mentioned. In fact, I have both of my lecturers here, Professor Ani, who taught me communications, and Dr. Moji, who taught us strength of materials from our second year. And there is a balance of representation from the academia and then from the industry. We have a young CEO whose survival, as it were, will depend on being able to hire the right people, to work with. And you have a head of engineering. These are all people who, in their capacities, have to work with young engineers. Before my present role in Schlumberger, please, can you all mute your lines? If you can mute your line until you need to talk, that way the line will be clearer. Thank you. So I was saying that before my present role, I was an engineer in charge of field operation. What that means is that for every new hire that we get, they have to report to me. So I worked directly with them and I understand the kind of gap we have. I'll also, as we progress, share some personal experiences. So welcome everybody. And then on the part of the academia, right, we have two very seasoned lecturers, and Professor Ani and Dr. Moji. And then we have a baby lecturer in Ijoma. So there is a balance of experience and ideas. I guess to start this off, I'll go to Oluremi, who is a CEO. I think she's one person that has to directly deal with this issue. So maybe, hi Oluremi.
Hi, I'm here.
Yeah, so I'd like for you to share your experience with young graduates coming into the industry. What is the experience you have with them, looking at the skill gap we're discussing?
Okay, thank you, Alison. So when it comes to my experience with young graduates, I would say that our engineering graduates are definitely not properly trained for the reality of the industry. And I will cite myself as an example, because when I came out it was exactly like that. I mean, I came out and then I couldn't find my way. I was just looking for any job, and it is the same thing with our graduates. So you come out without any hope. Okay, what big job at the back of your mind, you do not even know if you have any employability skill. And when it comes to the person that wants to take you in, wants to absorb you, they discover you don't have any skill, not even technical skills. You know, all you have is that certificate that says you studied this. And I believe our education system should actually reflect emerging direction of engineering profession and the evolving needs of the market. So take, for instance, some of the people that I have come across, worked with. Some of them are graduates of electronics. So in my sector, I employ computer science students, people that graduated with computer science, people who studied physics, electronics, mechanical, because I am in renewable energy, and you know, all this sum together to form my sector. And you find out that some graduates cannot even identify components. They don't know how to build a circuit. They cannot read a circuit. They can't read components. And you begin to wonder, what practicals did they do in school? I mean, I finished from school so some years
I
back.
think we are struggling to hear you. Is that just me or everybody having the same feedback?
Yeah.
Okay. I still believe education should be progressive. Knowledge is progressive, and whatever they are taught in school should actually be progressive.
Okay, so IJ, can you mute Oluremi? I think we are struggling with understanding her. Our network is broken.
That's true.
Yes, but I think that I had a follow-up question for her, because if you say there's a difference between not properly trained and not getting the right training. You know, if somebody was taught to do a multiplication table and only taught 2 times 1, 2 up till 12, that's what they've been taught. So it's one thing to have the right training, is another thing to not be properly trained. And then I'll go to Nana. You know, the software industry is very specialized, and I know at TeamFix, what you guys do is software. So what are you looking for when you hire new people, and what do you get? So far, what has been the kind of experience that you're getting? I think you're muted back, Nana.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now you're
All right.
muted.
Thanks again for having me. In my role as head of engineering, part of what I do, similar to your previous position, was basically bringing the best minds into the company to help grow the products, build products from scratch. So the skill set that we look out for is your knowledge of programming. So you need to know how to code. But beyond that, software engineering as a whole has other aspects. So there's the methodology of building the software. So you need to at least have some background knowledge, if it's the different approaches, if it's waterfall, if it's agile. And for those of us that are familiar with Agile requires, the principles of Agile requires that you're able to build software in a way that it is responsive to changing customer requirements. So in view of that, we typically look out for engineers who can learn, unlearn, and relearn in line with the requirements, the business requirements for the different products we do across the different industries that we operate in. Yes.
Okay, so I'll come back, and we'll talk a bit more about you went to university in Nigeria, right? So we'll
Yes,
come
sir.
back and discuss a bit more about what we think that the university can do better, or what it is that coming out of the university, what did you already know? What were you taught in class? And what initiative you took as a student. With a little Remy gone, I will go to Dr. Nwoji, and yes, thank you. I see you're trying to unmute your line. So, Dr. Nwoji, I will just want your understanding of what the gap is between the graduates that are coming out of our universities and the industries that they are going to. So what do you think are the gaps that exist? What is your understanding of this?
Thank you very much. Honestly, I will talk from the perspective of the director of Silos Program of this university. I will regularly go out to the industry to supervise students, and in the course of the supervision, people that are working interact with them. This is an addition to some of the folks that come back here. The one thing on the other, they do interaction. What I get from them as the gap.
Please, could you bring your mic closer to your, Dr. Nwoji, could you bring your mic closer to your mouth because we are struggling to hear you.
What even the limited space that we are, even the limited scale as we are, am I at?
No, we are struggling still. No, we are struggling to hear still.
Okay, sorry, I have to do it very well. Are you better now?
Yes, it's better.
You can hear me now.
Yes, it's a lot better.
Thank you very much. I was saying that what I have seen, because from my work as director of Highways Program at the university, which has a very long time in addition, now and again have these students either here or in other engineering programs. I'm saying that what I see, we have seen evidence on what the Oluregi has mentioned. Basically, even the sales we have here, we don't seem to impact as it ought to be. And the reason is not perfect. Facility that was designed for a given number of students today is being used by more than 5 times. And if that's the situation, you can see that all the students that are undergoing the hands-on skill acquisition will be able to do it. Just a specific example. When I was on the side, we were not all mechanical class. And when we came for practice, we worked in stations of 3, 4, never more than 5. Today, when you see students, they mark them about 40 to 1 work. The impact has not been quite.
Yes. Sorry, sir. Sorry. Hello. Sorry, Mr. Nwoji. Sorry. All the feedback I'm getting from the panelists, from the participants, is that they can barely hear. IG, I don't know if you can do something about his mic, because it was good when we did our initial run. Ijoma, you're there? So I think I will come back to you because it's important. Hello, Ijoma.
Yes, can you go to Professor Ani? Let me fix this mic.
Yes, sorry, sir. Let me switch to Dr. Ani while Ijoma tries to sort you out. Because it's important, because I see that now you are part of Current and you're coordinator for CEWA. So your understanding of this will be key to the discussion we'll have. So Dr. Ani, Professor Ani, I'm sorry. I will want to ask you the same question. What is your understanding? What is your understanding of this gap that exists between what the students get in school and what the industry requires of them?
Well,
Thank you, Engineer Allison. I hope you're hearing me well.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I want to let you know that there are lots of issues that could lead to that. Issues in the university with the students themselves, issues with the teachers. You still hear me well?
Yes, sir, we hear you well.
Okay. Issues with the teachers. Then the environment, when I say environment, I mean the government and the industry. A lot of things contribute to that. But one thing I want to make clear is that there is gap, actually, that has to be understood. But the gap is not with the curriculum in the university, as I know. This is my view. Because the curriculum we run is borrowed from curriculums, maybe from America, England, MIT, and the best universities. And we still run it here, and it works. Most of our graduates, when they leave the shores of Nigeria, they excel where they go. That's the good ones. So telling you that basically it's not about curriculum to say. But when you look at the students that come in, you see that the level of preparedness is no more what it used to be. And when you get them in, there is a level you expect from them. And then you look at the teachers teaching them. Well, I joined the services of the university since 1986. At that time, you cannot come in to do anything if you don't have the prerequisite qualification. So I think it used to be CGPA 4.0 and above. But now you can get people that don't have anything to do in the university simply because they look for a job, they can't get it. They are in here to train students. Then you come over to the exposure students get during training, like the SIWES. The SIWES is there. The way it used to be conducted in those days are no more the way they are conducted now. Nobody goes to supervise them. They just go there, do what they want. Some of them don't even go anywhere. They get the forms or the reports signed and they come in. And then you ask yourself, when we talk about industry experience, do we really have industry in Nigeria where we will go to get the experience? Like in communication, that I know I belong, we don't have any vending industry like vendors, communication equipment vendors. All we have are the people that use them, that service providers. And you cannot go to a service provider to get any industrial experience. So the particular thing that I think government has done, which is not too good, is the way they are proliferating universities and college of polytechnics to the level that when somebody graduates as a technologist, he doesn't stay to work as a technologist. You will get converted and become an engineer. He gets to a level where when the likes of Engineer Oluremi are hiring, they look for the people, engineers that can perform as an engineer and perform as a technologist and as a technician, which is not really possible. Because when you graduate as an engineer, coming to the industry, you need to go into some trainings, which we refer to as pupillage, under experienced engineer. And that will give you that fundamental idea and standing, like Engineer Oluremi claimed that you don't find. You don't find it because nobody gives it. And most of them that hire are never ready to give back. Like train your student, train the people you hire. You hire them and want them immediately to come and work. When that is required, and you know that you are simply bringing the person down from being an engineer to a technologist. An engineer is supposed to innovate, create, design. It's not a question of when a mechanical engineer comes out, you expect him to start repairing machines or repairing generators. It doesn't work like that way. There are lots of things we will look at in order to bring ourselves where we are. Everybody has to play a role to bring ourselves where we're supposed to be. So I may stop here now till I hear from others, but this is my personal view. It's neither here nor there. Everybody share in the issue, but the curriculum is not having any problem.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. I will go back to Moji, but since you mentioned the curriculum, I want to ask, how often do we update our curriculum in our universities? You said we take from the top universities in the world. How often do we update this curriculum?
Like in the University of Nigeria, we run a curriculum for 5 years. At the end of each 5 years, you update it. But in between that time, lecturers do bridging process where you can look at what is out and know what you will do. But at the end of 5 years, every curriculum has to be reviewed. That's how it's being done.
Okay. There's a difference between what should be done and what is being done. I'm just trying to get that. This is what we do. Is this what we should do, or is this what we are doing?
No, what we are doing is controlled by each university. But what we should do is what I just told you.
Okay.
And in your own department, electronic engineering, we adhere strictly to that.
Okay, fantastic. So going back to Dr. Moji, Professor Ani has touched on students' readiness, the environment, the curriculum, the teachers, and even the role of SciWest and having available industries where students can go and learn. You know, and I know environment is very important. I will tell you a funny story from Professor Onyegebu sometime, but just the same question you were trying to answer before technology cut us off. So what do you think are these gaps that we have?
Thank you very much. I hope I'm heard better now.
A lot better.
Yes, thank you very much. Professor Ani has given a lot of background to the issues that form this discussion. He has placed it where they ought to be. We talked about SciWest. I want to start responding from there. Yes, funding has been a very big problem. Many universities do not budget for supervision of students. And for some years, it has not been what it ought to be. I don't want to sing my praise, but the records are there. After I stayed there for the first 12 years and left, I came back after 13 years. To the glory of God, I was able to reenact this supervision in 2017, in 2018, and then in 2019. We were to do a very elaborate one this year before the pandemic caught up with us. Talking about the curriculum, I will agree to a reasonable extent with my colleague, Professor Ani. But I want to say that it will be a lot better if all of us, first of all, understand what university education ought to be, especially training of engineers. Engineers are not particularly trained for specific particular jobs. In the training, we try to capture the wide spectrum of opportunities the engineer is supposed to work in, and he cannot work in all. As he rightly pointed out, the place of pupillage has disappeared because is this that People are selfish. But when I graduated, when you are made to undergo pupillage 1 year, 2 years, and the particular decision that engages you try to fashion you into doing their own type of job. Professions like medicine still hold on to their own housemanship. Law, they send you to Nigerian law school. Pharmacy, you go for internship. Suddenly in engineering, we seem to have lost our own. The employers of engineers seem to now go for food is ready. I am not by this saying, like I tried to say in my first outing, that all is well with us. I've talked about the large population we are having now in the university. Space, for example, in the laboratory, in my own department, civil engineering, has not really expanded. Where we were less than 40 to do something. Today, you have students that are more than 164 doing it at the same time of 2 hours or 2.5 hours. There's no magic about it. They cannot all get even to absorb the best that we are given. Having said that, I want to slightly modify my own position with that of Professor, and that is that there seems to be no match between the skills supply institutions like us in the university and the absorbers of the skills. There should be constant relationship so that we that are here, as it were, producing the people with skills should know what people that are out there needing the skills require. If you will allow me just 2 minutes, Nigeria in 1962 realized the place of national manpower planning. And in that year, National Manpower Board was established. If you see the objective of establishing that board, fantastic. But by 1984, that board was dissolved and became just a division in the Ministry of Planning and Budget. And then in 1992, it was realized, oh, something is missing. It was then brought back again. And in 2006, it was dissolved again into NISA. And like that, what I'm talking about is policy somersault. We can have operators that are in place that are not doing well. Instead of removing the people that are not doing well, instead of retraining them to do well, we simply threw out everything that was. And today, as we talk, we do not have any institutionalized framework that will enable us to know the skills that are even lacking in Nigeria market. It's just a piece of this, a piece of that. This industry will talk from its own. The other one will talk from its own. And the way universities are funded, it doesn't even allow for lecturers now to begin to reach out to these industries, to see what the industries are doing, so that when we come back, we will be more informed of what are their needs, and even reach out to the industry to even let them know some of the things they should be doing. It looks like Nigeria is more of a big mercantile place. Like Rosani pointed out, engineers are trained to be designers, to be creative people, to be innovative people. Some of my friends, classmates run companies. And when I get to their companies, I see that what they actually require are technicians, craftsmen, sometimes at best, technologists, not people that are trained to work as engineers. Because what they are doing, strictly speaking, is very little of engineering, but more of the other services. I'm not belittling any kind of engineering.
I get your point. I get your point. I'm trying to, because I think Ijoma said we have just 2 hours, but I get the point you're making about, first of all, no funding to do, for CWES, for instance, to do what they need to do, and then engagement with the industry, where like the schools being able to meet with the industries and have a synergy, so that you are telling them you are going to be hiring our people. We need to know what it is we require so we can give them to you. I get this is, if I'm trying to summarize, this is what it says, you know? So I'll go back to, yeah, okay, good. I'll go back to Loremi. I hope your connection is a bit better. You were, you are a CEO, yes, you are a CEO who you hire people into your industry. And like both Dr. Anya and Moji have said, there is a difference between an engineer and a technologist. So an engineer is meant to do design. An engineer is not somebody, a mechanical engineer does not mean that I come tomorrow, you say my car is bad, look at this machine. So looking at that, you know, does that change your expectation, or will that change your expectation of the engineers you're getting?
No, no, absolutely not. I am an engineer too. And okay, so in response to what Professor Hani talked about, yes, engineers are meant.
You have two things connected and is interfering.
Oh, okay, so I need to leave one.
Yes, please.
I was trying to do backup for the previous one. Okay. Great. Okay, so thank you. So, okay, so in response to what Professor Ani said, to be honest with you, I am not blaming the institutions for the kind of products that are coming out, because I am also a product of an academic institution. What I'm saying is we should, and I think Dr. Nwoji also mentioned it, there should be collaboration between the industry and the academia. What is required outside is not what is coming out. I came out as an engineer too, as a pupil engineer, and I knew absolutely nothing. So take, for instance, I started my career in the telecoms industry, and I started as a switch engineer. And you know, there is a basics for communication in telecommunication, which is E1. I never heard of E1 throughout school. Nobody taught me E1. I did telecommunication that as an option, and nobody taught me about it. So what we're saying is, even this design, even this innovation, how many of our engineers come out being innovative? How many of them come out with skills to do designs? How many of them come out with, you know, the zeal for problem solving? Do they even know how to solve problems? Do they even know how to innovate? Were they taught how to innovate in school, or they were just taught a set of theories about books and, you know, what has been passed down over the years? Principles, yes. We know these principles are very important, but what about the application of these principles? How many practicals were these students able to do? How many industrial visits were they able to go for? I mean, in this day and age of augmented reality and virtual reality, you can actually take students on industrial visits just in your classroom. You can, you know, there are so many things we can do right there in the classroom that we are not doing. We're just following process the same way we've been doing it over the years, and we're churning out the same set of people. So I do not, I mean, I am an engineer. Maybe if someone who is not an engineer starts an engineering company, he may not know what to expect. So I bring in people, I know what to expect. I know they need to go through training, you know. So I take them through that training because it's a process I've gone through too. I had to be taught. And good thing about Nigerian engineers is give it up to them. Within 6 months, they are able to catch up, you know, and they are able to do whatever, you know, they are able to be creative. And, you know, we talk about the innovation. The innovation part is something that we need to work on in our universities.
Oluremi,
yes.
If these guys are coming in and they're catching up in 6 months, isn't it proof that they have some sort of fundamentals, that they have the principles down? Because you cannot bring somebody from the market and they'll catch up in 6 months.
Yes, so they have been taught the principles. What we're saying is, when they come out, do they even know what they were taught in school? So what I was explaining earlier was about electronic board. So you came out as an electronics engineer, and you cannot even identify a capacitor on a board. So, I mean, it is part of what we do. We do design. So you have, you came out, and you cannot even do a design. So you learn about coefficient of error, you learn about power factor. What is the application of those things? You have to be taught when you come out. Those things should have been explained earlier, you understand, while in school. you could even bring in people from the industry to train. You know, when I came out and, you know, I became a telecoms engineer, I had that passion, like, I need to go back to school to teach these people about telecommunication. Because what we were taught in telecommunication was completely different from my experience as a telecoms engineer, as a telecom switch engineer. And the same thing applies up till now. I mean, that I am a solar engineer. So many people are coming out. You have to tell them, they cannot even identify a circuit breaker. You give them several breakers, they cannot identify what this breaker is. Those are things that could be taught in school. So that's what we're talking about.
Okay, so this is fine. I get your point. Your point is that, one, either the lecturers are not passing on this information as they should, and the students themselves are not getting it.
I think the lecturers need to know what even to do, because most of them are not in the industry, so they don't see the reality of what they are supposed to teach. So I'm teaching somebody about renewable energy. I have never assembled a solar panel. I have never installed, I've never connected the panels together. I have never built a solar cell. I don't even have an idea what what are the basics that I need to make a solar cell. So how do you want to pass that across to an engineer? And you say the person is supposed to be innovative, is supposed to create maybe a headlamp that is solar powered. How is he going to do it?
Before I leave you, as somebody, I'm sure that you're teaching, you are the CEO of your company. I'm sure you have some agreements with some other companies where you have meetings and you're able to discuss about the shortcomings you face. Are you guys, and when I mean you guys, I mean company owners, are you looking at universities and saying we need to have a channel with these guys where we're able to go to the university and give feedback? You know, I'm sure that if you tell, for instance, Dr. Ani, that you want to come to his class and speak to students, he will not go against it. So do you think that also the industrialists are doing their part? Because what Modi said is that there's not enough funding. We know Nigerian universities. You know, normally they should be able to go to the university and see what's happening. He says also that there is no synergy, and you're saying the same thing. So coming from your end, because you're the end user, as it were, of the talent that is being manufactured, what do you think that you or people who are in your position can do? I'm going to give you 60 seconds to tell me, give me an idea. Is this doable?
So, yes, definitely it is doable. And I think this kind of forum is going to encourage that, you know. Maybe we kind of think that academia kind of think that they are like, you know, too brilliant. They don't need industry. They don't need your help. They don't,
but we have two people here who are saying they require it. Are you willing to give it? That's the thing.
Definitely. Our roles are different.
Yeah. All right. So let me go back to Dr. Ani. Doctor, I am a graduate of University of Nigeria, Nsukka. I know we have labs. And something you mentioned is about environment. Professor Nsukka, who was also a professor, I don't know if he's still a professor then, told us a story that someone broke into his house and stole his questions for an exam. He learned about it. He went to the guy's hostel to go and beat him up. So he put it, you know, by himself, not with a police or anything. And when he opened the door, he saw the guy lying down in a room that was meant for 2, and there were 8 people. And so with all the ginger he went that I'm going to deal with this guy, he could not do anything. You know, he just got because he realized that this guy could not possibly learn in this kind of environment. You know, and then looking at what Luremi has said about interest as well from students, do you think that there is something that can be done from the academia's point?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. And I must apologize to Engineer Luremi because the way she's approaching to that, she could have schooled in a place where they were being looked down at. Here, we don't believe that anybody has monopoly of knowledge. Like you said, the people in academia think they're smart and things. No, we're not smart. Everybody's learning every day. So with all apologies, so please relate well with the people in academia. We are still, you are, what do we say? We made you. And to respond to that, actually, I said before, there are lots of issues from the lecturers, from the students. You don't generalize everything and say that students coming cannot differentiate one component from the other or switch from the other. There could be some students, even here, people, when you were there, you will notice that there were people who continuously cheat, people who don't even come to lectures, people who buy their way into their universities. These are still, they still graduate. You don't look at them, but there are graduates, the people that come and go the way they should go. These are the people we are talking about. So, but the universities, I didn't say they don't have much to do, but you look at the program, or the curriculum, they are cramped up with those fundamentals, like Engineer Nwoji mentioned. Everything about engineering, especially in our environment, is about giving you the basics, the fundamental on which you can move on, which Engineer Lloyd accepted, that within 6 months, the person with that basic will actually move on well. So I'm suggesting, like, this particular bridging the gap between industry and academia is not something of today. It's been there. There is such issue. I'm well involved with Nigerian Communications Commission. When Digital Bridge was founded, this digital bridge is there to bridge the gap between the graduates of the university and what the industry requires. So we can do it like every other country do it. Like Oluremi and the group in renewable energy could sit down and fashion out what they need. And you come to a particular university, they will do the training for that particular need within one summer or something. And you send people you have employed to them, and they will train them. Quite unlike the digital bridge, they just train, and people find it difficult to hire them because they are basically involved a lot of money into their training. You know how much they charge to give you that very training. So I'm thinking that this can be done with that relationship we are talking about, industry, academia relationship. Build what you need, send it to a university, but it's not going to remove from the fact that somebody will be graduated based on a curriculum that was looked into by seasoned people, academia and industry. And that is the thing that you need as a background in order to move. You cannot remove that. The other one you are talking about will be on top of it. So this is what I think.
Dr. Oni, I want to follow up with the practicals. For instance, in ECE, most of our practicals are 1 unit loads, you know, and they are not taught by traditional lecturers. I understand I understand that engineering is not, when you're an engineer, your oath, what you're meant to go out and do is do design. So not necessarily be very, very hands-on. But do you think that do you think that this is a way of telling students that this is not important if you just 1 unit?
No, because that's what I was talking about. When we say it's giving 1 unit, you look at the time you spend in the lab. It doesn't really mean that, because 1 unit means 1 hour in 1 week, but you know how much you spend, and that's the time you spend in the lab. That is just not that. But another thing is that you also know the problems we are facing in Nigeria. Like when I joined the services of the university, I find in my class just 25 students teaching them. and I know them by their names. You get to the lab, they all have one lab stand to eat to themselves. Now, before you left, you know how many you were in a class. And right now, is 200 and something. Is question of the university giving admission because you get resources on a pro rata basis. So the more you have, the more resources that will come to a department. So on that basis, you see what we are talking about. And that's one of the reasons that ASU has never stopped fighting. And people fight them from outside. ASU is talking about funding the university. And if we are to fund university properly, we will have that lab that everybody is looking for. That lab that is the dream of everybody. So we don't have it now. I understand you. When you were there, the resources are even better than what we have now. So I agree with that. And even, so just let us leave it at that for the meantime.
Yeah, let me also get Dr. Nwoji's view on this. The same question about, I don't see you saying a different thing, but your view is important about, you know, our labs, you know, what we can do to make it better. Like I said, Dr. Ani just explained that is 1 unit because it's 1 hour, but should we not be spending more time in the lab? Should our universities not be giving their students more time in the lab?
Thank you very much. Let me make a quick correction. When you have 1 unit for a lecture, it is 1 hour a week. When you have 1 unit for a laboratory course, it is 3 hours. Note this. If you see 1 unit for lecture, it is 1 hour a week. If you see 1 unit for practical courses, it is 3 hours. General, that's how it ought to be. Another issue could be whether those 3 hours are meaningful 3 hours. That is an issue for another time. Now, coming from what is the problem now, permit me to talk from the background of what Korean has tried to do. Now, if you look at engineering curriculum now, you will see that after the 200 level, the student is supposed to go out on what is called SWEP. SWEP, Students Work Experience Program. Here, because the first 200 years are general years, the students are generally taken to have a general kind of feel about the engineering world. But from 300 level, the student is supposed to go on sideways, students industrial work experience scheme in his own field, and is supposed to stay there for 12 weeks minimum. Then at the end of first semester in many universities, then the students will go back to the industry in his own field and stay there for 24 weeks, 6 months. Now, the whole idea that Korean had in mind was that these practical skills, these hands-on and so on that Olurifemi has been talking about would be picked by the students. I mean, the people that are working, we have ample time to guide them so that when they come back into 500 level and graduate, they can be easily usable. But what is our experience? Yes, ASU strike, people outside don't want to hear it. ASU is not on strike because ASU likes strike. ASU is on strike because many of us studied under conducive enabling environment, and our heart bleeds when we find that environment no longer so. I lived too in a room. When I visit my relations that are in university now, I cannot enter their rooms. Like Professor Nsukka observed, the minimum you find sleeping 8, sometimes 12. So you find out that the programs of universities, particularly public universities, have become such that even that sideways, hardly do we have clear 4 months, except this time that many universities, faculties of engineering had made the second semester free. Otherwise, sometimes you just keep on managing with 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and so on. So the time to be there is not there. There's another problem. When I started looking after the CWS program, I moved around. I saw a lot of industries, no matter what inclination they were in, afloat. Today, I tell you authoritatively that about 40% of those industries had shut down. And the students that are coming out for SciWest had quadrupled, if not more. So you can see the problems that we have. I quite agree with, I feel very delighted that Olurefemi, that industry people are prepared, not only to come to university as, you know, guest lectures. I did it when I was head of department, and my new head of department that is starting in August, I had an extensive chat with him within this week. And I told him I'm going to help. I'm a civil engineer. Some of my classmates have had very fulfilling careers in the field. I tried it when I was head. We want to start it again. Every semester, create something like a week of guest lectures in which we'll bring in people like you, Alison, people like you, Olurefemi, and those of you that are out there in the industry to come back and interact, package it, even in the class with our students. And if it is possible sometimes to actually physically go out. Yes, the virtual presentation is wonderful, but we know that it cannot equal physical appreciation. These are areas in which we will improve what we are doing. And I believe over time, we will get to producing people that will be more acceptable and everybody will be happier for it. In addition, we, the lecturers, should also, in my view, be going on industrial attachment. Could be that after staying teaching engineering in a university for 7 years, you should go to an industry, fully receiving your salary, and then stay there for at least 6 months, and then see how what we are doing matches with what is happening in the field. By that method, when we are doing curriculum review, it will be more realistic. Let me stop there for now.
Yes, so just the last thing you said, right? Is this an active conversation with in current? Is this a discussion you're having with your colleagues in current that lecturers also need to be?
It's a policy. It's a policy, please. The only thing is that, you know, the way Nigeria runs, we expect, when we go for current accreditation, I've led many, I'm the vice president of current, we want to see industry, academia, communication. As a matter of fact, current expects that in every faculty board, that people from industry should also be members of the board. Oh, yes. It's no longer, it's a policy. So yes.
This is a policy, but it's obviously not happening.
I don't
it's obviously not happening.
I don't know about all the places, but unless the posture. When I was in University of Agriculture, Makurdi accreditation, I think it was September last year, I asked that question. How do you, and they presented some people, one of whom is even my very good friend that I know has been has held engineering positions. He was even on staff as a part-time, we call it adjunct staff, teaching. I can vouch for competence of Engineer Felix Atume. He's my friend of so many years. We just came out of the university about the same time. He's on staff. Okay. I just want to use him as an example.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a drop in the sea. If you have just one person.
I'm just saying as an example, but Korean has it. It's expected that faculties of engineering should have in its board, and indeed every department. The problem that we have is that if you see the curriculum that Korean uses for accreditation, the one we published in 2017, all these things are there. But then you get to the university, some of them will keep on complaining. And it's not just complaining, talking about the reality, which is funding. And on one hand, they are not bringing the money. On the other hand, they are telling you that tuition must be free. How can you marry that? You know, you as at now.
Tuition must be free, how?
It's free. You study in the University of Nigeria. Did you pay tuition?
What I paid 4,000.
No,
I paid 4,290.
My brother, if you went to Afababula University, which we reckon very highly in Korea, and find what people pay to study engineering. I have my daughter.
Okay. So let me just ask. There is myself, I have some of my colleagues here. I have Onyinye Kachi, who is a graduate of civil engineering.
Yes,
exactly.
yes,
She's also a colleague at Schlumberger, and she's on this call. I have Mervyn Azeta, who is from University of Ibadan.
Okay.
She is currently working with Schlumberger International. She's positioned in Congo. She's on this call.
Yes.
You have we have Nana, and there is Oluremi. If you have to hold, and I'm posing this question for you and Dr. Ani, if you have to hold our feet to the fire and say, do something, what can we as students or former students or people who are interested in seeing this gap bridge, what can we do in our industries to make sure that, what can I do personally to see if, to improve the relationship my company has with UNNPC?
Okay, thank you very much. Indeed, I will be in another webinar this evening from 4:30. And that is, I don't know whether they have reached you. The Webites, as we call ourselves, people that graduated from Faculty of Engineering, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, about the first faculty, University Faculty of Engineering, Nigeria. We're already coming together. And I say, well, these things you are saying is key to what we are planning to do. I'm in the committee on the structure, and we are going to have our third meeting this evening, starting at 4:30. And one of the things we hope to talk about is to make provision for how people like you and others will regularly come back. Like I talked about it, giving out a week in every semester for people in industry to come back, virtual presentation, and things like that, so as to improve on what we are doing. We're already thinking seriously about it. And if you remember that when I made my presentation, I talked about interaction I had with my new head of department, my former student. Yeah.
Because of time, just make it short, because we are quite, we have quite a few more things to discuss.
Please don't miss out on the one I said, and which is that we lecturers that are here should regularly go out to the industry. That one has not started happening as a policy. I'm saying it should be a policy that maximum of 7 years, you should go to the industry, stay minimum of 6 months, preferably 1 year, so that you see how the things you are giving out is being used. And also you have, appraise yourself of emerging technology, because all these gaps that we are talking about result from a mismatch between the perception of the supply institutions and the perception of the consumer.
Yes, you cannot give what you do not have.
Of course.
Yeah, Dr. Ani, what do you think that as an ex-student, I and the other people who are on this call can do?
Thank you, Engineer Lesson. I very much think that the department is yours as much as it is everybody's. The only thing I will want you to do is constantly to visit or getting in contact with the department with what you need, because your particular company has its needs. So those needs should be articulated, and you come to the department. There are people specialized in that area. You will sit down with them and agree, so that if you are coming to deliver anything, it will be straight to the point to meet the gap that you kind of noticed. So it's no question of now you are talking. Somebody like you, you've been visiting the department, but this time you come with an idea. This is what I want the students coming out to have. And then you'll be able to pick them from the department, those that can come to your company, or recommend them to other companies. But what I'm saying is constant contact with the department and get whatever you need well articulated, and you meet the department constantly like that. We'll bridge the gap.
Okay, very good. So Nana, going back to you, right? Where do you think a company like Symphony comes in? Because you have a very special, one of the most dynamic fields in engineering or is computer engineering, especially what's happening around the world. Yeah. You know, even those who are programmers are currently getting updated. What can a company like yours do to help train our lecturers in the universities? how do you think that you can help?
Okay, so thank you, Alison. Before I dive into that, just permit me just a few seconds to actually lend my voice to some of the points being raised. Professor Ani had mentioned initially about the role of students, and I think Dr. Moji also tried to emphasize that in addition to other factors like the funding and the students to teacher ratio as well. So, but on the role of students, because I know that there are students listening here, I want to use myself as an example, right? I think it's going to be a very big disservice if I don't actually acknowledge what Professor Ani said about the curriculum. And in touching that, I'll also go contrary to what Engineer Oluremi had mentioned. So now, using myself as an example, real quick. I know in our second year, I think we did, I think it was object-oriented programming, for example, with, I think it was in C++, if I remember correctly. And from there, I basically picked interest in programming. But a lot of the things we're doing in engineering seem to be touching on a lot of different subjects. We're doing telecommunications, we're doing what's it called, microprocessor design. We're doing a lot of other stuff, a lot of things. So there are ways that students can approach this. The simple way is reading your textbook. Other things is actually getting engaged outside the classroom. So for myself, what I did was I joined the ITA, Information Technology Academy, in somewhere called Uhere Study Center. Some of us are familiar with it. And there I was able to grow my skills in programming in Java. So when we finished in 2010, when we graduated, it was very easy for me to find a programming job. As a matter of fact, they actually got in touch even while we were in final year then. So just to lend my voice to that, students have a role to also play in it. I can go on and on. I can go on and on. I know how many parties I attended in my first and second year, and a lot of them, probably because of the circles that I kept. And then as I was progressing through the university, right? I started getting deeper into the engineering and picking an interest. So in that, students have to take ownership for their own growth. So I want to reemphasize that because Professor Ania touched on that, and I don't want us to take that lightly.
Take it for granted, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So so just to quickly touch on something else, the role of the curriculum as well. I think it's interesting that we actually do. I think Professor Adnia mentioned that we revise our curriculum every 5 years. So it's really interesting, and that it's in line with what is happening in the Western world. So it's really interesting. So, but from my own further education, because after UNN, I went on to do a master's in information technology, and I did I got a certificate in management from Harvard. So I think what I was able to grasp from those experiences, and which is slightly different, from what we do in school, and which also touches a little on what Remy has said, is there's this case study. There's this case study way of teaching, a situation-based kind of education, right? So yes, in engineering, you have a lot of I hear a lot of things like who integration and differentiation help, because a lot of them are not actually working in fields where they use all those things, right? Mm-hmm. But you know that when you're in the classroom, beyond learning formulas and learning the science, different touch points. There's also the situation-based. What that means is teaching students what to do or how to think, or some kind of openness in their thinking, sometimes kind of lateral thinking when you are faced with different situations when you go out there. But it's not exhaustive. You can't cover all the experiences that a student can have. So eventually it goes back to what I said the very first time. We have to find a way to teach them how to learn, unlearn, and relearn, because that makes them flexible, and then they can do all this. They can function in this spectrum of opportunities, as Professor Ani and Dr. Moji have mentioned. Yeah, so going back to your question, how can my sector drive this? Personally, I think there needs to be some kind of structured collaboration through a variety of channels. So I think it was Ijoma that I bounced and that I had this conversation with, and things like lecturers coming on sabbatical in some of these industries where they can actually experience hands-on what is currently happening in the industry. But then there are other simple ways, like keeping up, students and lecturers actually keeping up with the industry trends. So in the 10 years that I've been in the industry, there have been so many different frameworks and technologies and tech and IT trends. There's been big data. There's been big data. There's been artificial intelligence, which is still somehow related. There's been cloud computing. There's been growth in a lot of frameworks across languages: Java, C, C++, C#, PHP. And I think the biggest trend that I've seen, because I compared where some of these programming languages are today to what they were in 2010, 10 years ago. And I'm seeing that the biggest jump has been on like R programming and Python, which is about data analytics. So there's a huge growing trend over there. So I think what we can do is structure some kind of collaboration
I'm going to hold you to a specific. Structure some kind of collaboration is industry speak for another person problem. You know? So what
Sorry, I didn't get
remember, structure some kind of collaboration is industry speak for is not my problem for now. I remember, for instance, when I was a student, Dr. had helped me do something. I gave him a wine and he refused it. And he told me then that if I graduate, when I come back, he will let me know of a software that I can get for him that will help him when I get a good job. But for now, that somebody is training me and I don't have a job, so I cannot give somebody a gift. So just asking, in terms of, there is no doubt that from the time we started this meeting till now, there must have been some innovation somewhere in the field of software development. What I'm asking is, what channels are open to the university lecturers to be able to assess that your company can say, you know what, we can give this?
Well, so I think it comes back to what I was trying to touch on, which is the imagine a lecturer comes on for 3 months in Synfix, for example, to actually function there in a capacity of an engineering manager. So he is able to touch on the products vis-a-vis the skill sets. The skill sets that we typically look out for in Synfix for engineers that we are hiring. So absorbing lecturers into the industry for a particular for a certain period of time, the same way we do for students. So I think that is one.
No. I think so what I'm trying to do is not just about the person coming. It's about the resources that we can avail them. I know that Synfix, for instance, is present in UNN.
Yes.
I'm just talking to you, I'm getting to Oluremi as well. I know that, by the way, I want to acknowledge our participants. We have over 100 participants and is buzzing with all kinds of questions. I'm trying to round off here so that we can take some of them. I see Dr. Muj is also answering. Some of them, Anijoma is also. So thank you guys. We acknowledge that you're there. We're looking at your questions. We'll get to that. But what I'm talking about is, for instance, there are all sorts of languages. When I was in UNN, agric engineering, they were teaching Fortran. And I don't know anybody who was using Fortran. You know, we can have, for instance, a projector where if these lecturers know that this exists and they're able to talk about it, even just talk about it, the students can, even when I graduated, we didn't have as much internet availability as we do now. With your phone, you can do a lot of research. So it's ThinkFix going to say, okay, we're going to make sure that these guys they have information about what's going on in the world from us. Just making sure that lecturers know that this is happening. Can you give them that sort of support? Is my question. Do you think that you should be able to give them that kind of support?
I think that I should be able to give them that kind of support, but I also think that that support is in abundance already, right? It's already
from who?
From a whole lot of resources. Do you get it? So there's so basically telling them about industry trends. If you just Google industry trends, it's already out there. So maybe what we can do is tailor it to the curriculum. In short, there was an idea that came into my head while you were speaking, which is if for example our curriculum has somewhere object-oriented programming in maybe in second year or something, then we can actually say, okay, we can carry the lecturers along to actually tell them what programming languages, for example, to use to groom students in this object-oriented programming, because it's about principles, but then the application can span different languages. So that's just a simple example of what we can do to actually foster this collaboration.
Okay, very good. I'll go to Oluremi. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
So what sort of assistance, support, more like, do you think that industries like yours and some others can provide to Nigerian universities to make sure that they are up and about?
Okay, so I think the first thing will be about allowing students to come for internship. During my internship days, I was unable to do my IT in an engineering company. I was just helping my boss to buy food and, you know, going with the driver to pick up the children after school. And it was supposed to be my internship. So I think what we could do would be to be able to absorb as many students as we can. And I think there's something I was going to suggest to Dr. Nwoji about this CWES thing. Now, if there is proper collaboration between the industry and academia, I believe you should have a list of organizations that your students can absorb your students every year for their IT training. So take, for instance, most of us are members of NSC, and there are so many organizations that are engineering organizations there. You could have, you know, a list of them and have a relationship with them such that you send them a list of students that, you know, could do their IT with them, and through that you can rest assured that your students are actually getting properly trained, not just going somewhere to serve tea, which is the normal thing that interns are also, they do. I also think that, yeah, so, and just like I suggested earlier, you know, collaboration, having industry come over to academia, or having the academia, just like you've been discussing earlier.
So yeah, Oluremi, I'm looking for specifics. you're just giving me the industry speak as well. Give me specific, like what exactly can we do? Are we willing to, for instance, somebody asked in the that companies are always not willing to give data to students who are looking for research information. Can you go, for instance, and say, can you go to the university, for instance, and say, I'm interested in this, and I will sponsor a student who will do his final year project on this. For instance, is this a way that you think that this company can help? Somebody said in the comment section, I think, let me read it, that most companies are wary of releasing data to students for research and projects. How can we remedy this? This was from Chukwuemeka Chikodi. So is this an area you think that industries like yours and some others can help?
Yes, yes. And I think everything still boils down to relationship, like I said earlier. So yes, we have a lot of issues in the industry too, you know, people not wanting to take in fresh graduates with zero experience and all that. But I absolutely, what you just said now reminds me of the time that I was trying to know the technology behind making solar cells. And I contacted a professor friend of mine in a university about it, if he has, you know, students or postgraduate students that are, you know, doing anything in that line that I wanted to know. I know you use silicon, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, no, like, I was like, you people are supposed to be the research arm of the industry. I mean, we are supposed to come to you, just like Silicon Valley came out of Stanford University. We're supposed to have, you know, the industry coming out of our university. So definitely what you said is a suggestion I never thought of. I just thought I could just ask whether anybody could give me such information, if there is a paper on it that I can read and all that. So it's something that I would be willing to explore. Yes.
Nana, a quick yes or no question for you. You know, do you think that your company will be willing to sponsor a student who wants to do a project based? Or let me mute your line. Engineer Luremi, please mute your line. So Nana, do you think that your company, yes or no, please? Do you think that your company will be willing to sponsor student projects who want to do something based on what your company does? Give them data, guidance, and provide for them.
Yes, I think that wouldn't be a problem. We have been doing it actually, but yes.
Okay, fantastic. While recording this, we can sue you if you renege on the agreement.
Yes.
So another question for Dr. Annie, Professor Annie, and Dr. Woji. Our universities do not have a guidance and counseling section like we see in most advanced universities. Is this something that we can fix? Because I believe that, just thinking about this, one other way we can help is if you have somebody who says, I want to go into the oil and gas industry when I grow, and you're talking to the person, you can ask me, hey, Alice, I want you to call in and talk to these guys, or I want you to come whenever you can. So are we willing to establish a guidance and counseling section in our universities where we can counsel and guide our students? Dr. Annie, we start with you.
Yes,
Professor
yes, yes, I'm with you. The question is a bit tough because you're talking about the university and you are referring it to a lecturer in the university who is not the head of department, not the faculty dean, and not even the DVC or the rest. But the fact is that a university system is such that it's supposed to have adults, and on the basis of that, people inside here may require little or not that big guidance, but still, I think I will refer that question to my bigger bosses, because establishing guidance and counseling section is big, but I know there could be something like that in the maybe physical and health section of the university. Engineer Nwoji, please, I don't know if you can assist in that.
Yeah, before we go to,
please let me give you information. Let me give information.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was privileged to be posted to Students Affairs Department, and I worked there for 3 years as associate dean. It was interesting to me to know that our university had established what we are talking about. It comes NUC in 2013 directed all universities to establish such centers. Generally, it is about career education, information, advice group. Some call it students-friendly centers and so on. One doctor, Zitin Namonu, a medical doctor, headed it when I was in student affairs. It was a surprise to me because we in engineering didn't even know that such a center had been established. And if you look at the policy statement in establishing the center as given by NUC, you will see that it really ought to have addressed all these issues. Where students in their first year, that's 100 level, 200 level, will be reached out. A lot of programs that will be organized by this center in order to fashion them. It was a message that such center will regularly interface with people in the industry like you, coming and then assisting departments to do that. But if not that I went to serve as associate dean, I wouldn't have known that such center was existing. And you can see that from 2014 to now, that's some 6 years, the impact of that center has not been felt even in the university. And it's one of the big problems we must not lose sight of in this presentation. And that is when it comes to policy, it is wonderful. We draw up, but when it comes to implementation, we fail, because after establishing, the next thing we see is that thing is overtaken by mere bureaucracy. And mere bureaucracy because what that center does. The real mandate is hardly addressed on. So that's the information that I want to give. And if you can come on and I can answer the other ones.
Okay, fantastic. Professor, somebody had a specific question for you. From Mervin Azeta, this is my colleague, said, Dr. Ani had mentioned that there are issues with the industry. I'm curious to know what these issues are. Could he shed more light on this, please?
All right. Thank you for the question. The industries, like I said, when you talk about industries, there are things we expect. But right here in Nigeria, we have a different issue. Like, I keep on using communication because that's where I am. When you talk of communication industry, for somebody to visit it, you will end up visiting either network providers who will never allow you to come near their switch because they are profit oriented. You don't go disturbing it for any reason. And the highest you can think about is maybe a company that is buying and selling, you are marketing, or some of those big network providers, when even their equipment get problem, they send it to their home countries for repairs. No research, no anything is done here in Nigeria. So this is the kind of problem I'm talking about. You're talking about our students reaching out, or even the staff going out. You hardly be able to do that. When I studied in Swansea, we were visiting New Bridge company in Canada, because that's where they produce the switches used for communication. And the professor I was with, Professor Fred Halsall, had a seat from that very company. So you see what I mean by the problem.
Yeah.
It's a general problem.
Okay, so I want to take this conversation to an entirely new spectrum, okay? And just go into how we teach. For my company, when we hire you, before you even come to the premises, before you even get into the company premises, you will go for training. And when I was hired, you do your interview in a different place. And when you're hired, you go to, that time it was Paris. You go to Paris for a training, get a basic training, and you come back. When I was hired, there were 16 people and they wanted one person. And they took just me because they wanted me. But something that happened was this. You're supposed to do a presentation that says who you are, who you are, your university, two positives about you and two negatives about you, and what you want to, how you think you can help the company. When I finished presenting, the operation manager who was making the decision then asked me, have you ever done presentations before? And this was not a compliment, you know? And right now, having been in the company, in the industry for over 10 years, I can go back and look at that, my presentation, and I understand what he's saying. In our universities, we hardly ever do any sort of presentation, except for the only presentation I ever did in UNN was my project.
Project defense.
Yeah, project defense. Now, if you go to the other universities where we're getting our curricula from, you see that students from their first year are presenting. This is a core industry skill that is required. Are we willing to go this route? And this question is for you first, Professor Ni, and then we go to Engineer Woji.
All right. Actually, listen, a lot of things are changing now, especially with the review of our program. We noticed that even preparation for presentation had been a problem. You remember when you guys used to present? I don't know if we started the PowerPoint presentation. People will just slap word processed documents onto a slide and call it PowerPoint presentation. We are now very serious about presentations. So it's something that the whole faculty is taking serious, not only my own department. So we are training our students with respect to that. That's the...
Yeah, but what is it just project defense, or are they doing this as second year students able to present, or third year, or is it just still final year defense?
No. You remember that first year and second years are not in our department. You come into the department from the third year, fourth year, yeah, and final year. So those people will now have programs for them to present. You go for your IT, you return, you must present, quite unlike in your own case. And there are other seminars that are built, especially to make sure that you learn the art of presentation. You produce your documents such that you'll be able to present them and be able to present them also. So,
okay, thank you.
Gradually, we'll be improving because I promised Oluremi, we are not actually monopolizing any knowledge. We are learning. So we will keep on improving.
Okay.
All right.
Can I come in?
Yes,
Can I come in?
Yes,
thank you very much. You struck a raw nerve here, and we are very, very correct. My colleague has said we are learning, we are improving. If you look at the new curriculum that is supposed to be the vogue now, prepared by Koren, technical writing and presentation is emphasized. But as somebody that is in the institution, there is a problem I find here. And that is, if you look at the curriculum now, the way we are running it, some adjustments has to be done in order to accommodate this thing you have mentioned. Because if you look at the credit load that the students are carrying, it is very heavy. Because in the effort to give students a touch on so many things that they may find themselves doing, we have overcrowded the students. I am forced now to enjoy mathematics. When we studied here, at the 300 level, we said bye-bye to mathematics. But now it is taken up to 400 level. And if you look at the requirements of the curriculum as it is now, if we are to implement it holistically, hey, it is very heavy on the students. So for what we are saying to happen, there are certain courses, I think at the level of some personal discussion between me in Korea and some people in the university, we're even beginning to feel that these first 2 years being common may no longer be productive, especially now that we have so many disciplines in engineering. We are thinking of seeing how to do it so that after 100 years, first year, second year, maybe one semester, and in the second semester, the students will begin to be driven to their own field so that we can now accommodate some of these things we are talking about. It's a problem, I agree with you. But there's a change since you left. PowerPoint presentation has become commonplace. And one Professor Ugu that came down from outside the country and joined us in civil, his course, and I later joined him in teaching. We do that. We give students topic generally to go and prepare, and they come to make presentations of not more than 10 minutes, maybe they're just in twos and threes. We can go on with this, and it will improve this competence. I think we require to improve that area. I agree with you.
Yes, and I will follow up with you, Dr. Moji, but I wanted to also ask that sometimes presentation skills can be gained while we are waiting for this big one of them being able to do PowerPoint. We can also have students, just come up to the front of the class and explain a problem. Just being able to stand in front of people and talk is a skill that everybody needs to get, because in my industry, there is no month that, for instance, as an engineer, you go to client, you're presenting something, and it is the difference between Dr. Ijoma just is maybe one of the newest lecturers you have. She will tell you the problem she had going from UNN to a university in the UK where she had to do different type of coursework. So it's something that matters. And then you talked about the load. There's a question from one of the participants, and I'll just read it for you. He says, still on the issue of curriculum, you have taught strength of materials to all engineering students in UNN for years. A quick look at the curriculum of Department of EE at one of the top universities in UK, see students specialize in their core courses from the first year. Don't you think the vastness of this curriculum deprives our students the time to specialize and master their field? I'm guessing this guy is talking about, do we still think it's important for students to learn every field before they go to their department?
I think it's in line with what I was just saying. That private discussion I'm having. I was in University of Ilorin in February. And after the post-accreditation visit, the faculty members decided to host me as my friend and as vice president of Korean. And in a relaxed mood, we are looking at these things, that making somebody in electronics engineering to learn thermodynamics in 200 level to the level of somebody mechanical may not be very necessary. We agreed that yes, the first 100 level should be the same, but then in second year, after one semester, it's okay. People should begin to go to their distance. And I want to tell you something, please. The university, within its limited resources, has started providing smart boards. And this presentation you are talking about, I agree that it's important. We will definitely create time for that. And one of the things that disarms us in university is what Professor Ani has mentioned, and I've mentioned it, the number that enrolled. When I studied, we were less than 40. In 300 level of civil engineering today, there are about 174. And so when you want to do this presentation, you can begin to see, if you give them five minutes, you do 5 minutes times 174. You know what it amounts to at the level of time. It's a very big problem. Nigerians are just, governments are, proliferating everything. And then
but Doctor, if we recognize that this is an important skill for this, as important as the technical knowledge they are getting, if we understand that it's an important skill, we should find time, even if it's not on a day, even if it's not in a week. So you're going to present this week, this group, or this 3 or 4 people in a class.
I agree. My brother, sorry to interject. The space is even a problem. You may, as bad as I think we are in UNN, in other universities where we go to also assist, their situation is worse. Because for this thing to be meaningful, at least you need some academic staff. When we are doing seminar now, we no longer get the entire class together. No, we break into 3 because the number of classrooms available to civil engineering is 3. And we divide the lecturers into that 3. And so when in each group, you have about 50-something. And when they are talking, you give every student to talk 5 minutes. You know what it is. The number is a very big problem. And the facilities, the government is not matching up at all. You studied here, you left us about 10 years ago, or thereabout. Has the situation changed? If you come to the department now, when I look at it in the faculty, how it was when I left in 82 and how it is now, has facilities multiplied in tandem with how enrollment has multiplied? The answer is no, a very far no. And that is part of the problem. That's part of the problem.
Yeah. Now, something that Dr. Ani had said when we began that I wanted to go back and ask him. Prof, you had mentioned that most of the lecturers we are bringing in now are people who are, in quotes, half-baked. Is there a reason why we're hiring these people? Is it that the people who are qualified are not applying? Or is there a reason why we are hiring otherwise qualified people? Otherwise unqualified people?
All right, listen, let me just take you through a short time of history. For some years back, especially when I joined, the lecturers used to have respect. And when I mean respect with the take-home pay. They're very happy. So everybody will want to be a lecturer, happy that you're a lecturer. It continued till it got to a point where it was a course to call somebody a lecturer. Even your children will tell you, Daddy, if lecturing is what you do, please, I won't want to come into that. During that time, smart ones like you, we beg you to stay back. You go for oil companies and left. And for the university to continue, we moved down to the people that are available. It is this availability that is helping. And also fighting to return it where it is. And what we say is that they are worse than Oliver Twist, that they keep asking for more. Will the government die for these people? The reasons for all this is in the hands of the government. Bring back what will make the good ones to stay. If you make first class and we beg you to stay, you will be happy. It's a kind of glory that you are staying back because you will earn well. You will not be shortchanged by those in other industries. So this is part of it and many other things.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Woji.
Yeah, thank you very much. Prof, I said it. Let me use myself. When we finished in 82, I didn't make a first, but I was the best in my class. And it was a delight for the department to invite me back. Then my takeoff pay when I started in July of 1983 was 457 naira. Then my friends I met in youth service who went to the oil industry, I think they were earning something like 630. And they were living in Port Harcourt, in Warri, or in Lagos with all the hustle there. And here am I in a quiet place. So I was breaking even. And then progressively, as Professor Ali mentioned, it got to a point when the so-called take-home pay cannot even get home with you as a lecturer. And it became a kind of ridicule, even in your own home. The best like you and others in my department never wanted to look this way. I don't want to mention it because you know some of the people I taught when I taught you. They kept on going. Well, now it seems that the bright ones are forced to come back First, mark my words, because there's problem with the industry. The industry can no longer take them because of the global economy. And when somebody comes back, as it were by force, you will not expect the best from that person because the orientation will be wrong. And there's also something that has crept up while we are working here. Professor Annie, we remember how lecturers were promoted when we joined. Today, the emphasis has been skewed in such a way that if somebody were to devote his life, as people that taught us devoted their lives, we do assignment, they mark it, they do everything, we do tutorial, they had, indeed, when they were teaching us, it will look like 75% of their time were completely devoted to making the best that can be made of us. Any lecturer who goes that way today may not climb so fast. It's unfortunate, it's the truth, it has to be said.
May never climb at all.
Fine, we had him say that, and and it's not happening in other climes. Only 10 days ago, I had chat with some of my students that are in South Africa. They just went about 14 months ago, and they told me that over there is a different game at all, completely. The way we reward, the way we promote here is not what they're using. They are using more of the old way. And those things have to come back in order to build inspiration. And you look at a professor, there was crisis when the last salary was paid. Unless you are holding a very important position, most professors receive 285,000. And my own was 242. And I didn't know what to do with my own. Remember that I am blessed in that I do a little things as practice. And then I know what it took to calm my wife down because she could not. And when somebody is working in this type of environment, your life is 285. I mentioned this figure because that is what the professor at the bar that is living in the university received. I don't know what those that are DVCs, vice chancellors, or what they receive, but I'm talking about even those that are dean. It may interest you to hear what is the monthly allowance for dean. And you know, as vice president of Korean, you know, as somebody that is active outside, I know what directors earn, even in federal ministries. I think the remuneration in the university system, something has to be done so that when the best come back, they will be encouraged to stay. I mean, we are not on, yes, it will look like a missionary work, but missionary work is done with missionary spirit. This thing, somebody must be alive in order to do it. It is bad. The support about conferences, they want you to attend. How much do they pay? About 90% of academic staff attend conferences at their own cost. And it's an important requirement for you to be promoted. You write a paper, they tell you the part of journal that they publish it. Some of them, even this money that's not enough, used to pay. Like Professor Annie pointed out, these problems that we are seeing is not as simple as some of you in the outside are looking at it. It's networked and it's in a very bad way. There is also the national issue, where Nigeria cannot come as a country to say this is what we want. Rather, any policy that comes out, we look at our geopolitical zone and is it ready to go? And there are so many problems, very many problems.
Yes, I see. And this is a continuing conversation we must have, because I think that and I know this, right? I'm not, I know that our lecturers are very poorly paid, and nobody who, Ijama is my friend, we talk all the time, you know, and we need to be able to attract the right interest the compensation needs to be worth it if people are going to stay. So now we are rounding off, and at some point I was like, what am I going to do for 2 hours on this discussion? But I see that even 4 hours will not be enough, you know. So I'm just going to ask this last question, and then we'll start rounding off. So, and it's for you, Professor Annie and Dr. Moji again. The relationship with most of our lecturers is that of God and man. You know, our lecturers are fiery people that you cannot talk to. We do not have a cordial relationship with lecturers. You know, it's like I have to practice. I remember, and in fairness to you, Dr. Anu, we were close, and you were close to your students. I remember in third year when we did the Fourier series, we had to come to your office for confession. You come with your notebook and come and explain from your notes what you have done, which is confidence building. But generally, the relationship between Nigerian lecturers and Nigerian students is that of cat and mouse. One of my friends in school used to tell me that if this lecturer is here and the evil spirit is here, he will brave the evil spirit. You know, you pass through the evil spirit and not. So is there something that can be done? Because even in our families, right, one of the best ways to learn is if people are confident, if your students like you, they will come to your class, they will pay attention, they wouldn't want to disappoint you. Dr. Moji is also like that. I remember in our strength of material class talking about equipment weakness or how a material can deteriorate. Talked about, you know, if you keep going to Bello and you're talking to a girl and the girl says, no, I don't want, you keep talking to the person. Over time, the person's resolve weakens. You know, linking real life experiences or something, you know, that the students will be interested in your teaching. But generally, can our lecturers please begin to look at the students and interact as friends with them? Is this something that is possible?
All right. Yes, this is
two minutes, please. 2 minutes.
Yes. Okay, this is a real problem in the university system, but you cannot separate it with individuals, who a person is. Sometimes it comes with a level of inferiority complex. So, but I don't know how that will be done, whether to say everybody will start going through one church like that to cleanse them of their behavior, but it has to be with individuals. This is common in the university, but I can tell you that a lot of other lecturers are very friendly with their students, and they are approachable, but there are still individuals who are not. So I don't know, honestly, how to handle that.
All right. Thank you very much. I laughed because we also had that experience when we were here. And it is interesting for decency. Let me not mention names. Those lecturers we feared most, when I came back to teach, they had become my very big uncles. I was asking myself, so this is the man, when we see him coming, we will run the other way. As a person, I don't have that problem. I thank God you even attested to it. And Onyinye is on Kachi and many others. My life is open, my door is open. I have also even benefited, I must confess, that now and again, when I go out to Abuja, when I go out to Port Harcourt, when I go out to anywhere engineers gather, it looks like I turn out a delight. I won't forget what happened in the last Korean Assembly after we had finished the opening ceremony. On the stage, we are more than 300 students trying to take photographs with me, reminding me, you taught me in UNN, you taught me in Makurdi, you taught me in Yola. I felt on top of the world. I started talking to people beside me. You see the joy of a teacher. Honestly speaking, it's a personality problem. And it's no longer as bad as it was. A lot of lecturers now relate better. And it's an onward thing that should be continued. It's good you observed it, and I'm sure many of them are watching this program. We will all
just go and look at the participant reaction. Yes, this is bad. Yes, we know this. Yes, this is not very, like everybody understands this. And also I think, yes, it's a personality problem, but I also think that lecturers like yourself who have been in the system can also encourage the, talk to your students, talk to people, be friendly, do this, because it makes for a better learning environment, So at this point, I want to thank everybody for the fantastic participation. Looking at this, I think that this is a conversation that needs to continue. And of course, you can get our contacts from the baby lecturer, Ijoma. I already have Dr. Annie's number. I'll get that of Professor Annie's number. I'll get that of Dr. Oji as well. So I'm going to get, I'm going to get final words from the panelists starting from Engineer Oluremi Hamid. Engineer Oluremi, your final word.
Okay, so my final words, would be that we should keep encouraging innovation and creativity among our students. Also, I think one thing I didn't mention earlier was soft skills. I think soft skills should be introduced into our curriculum because you have a lot of people coming out. Some have some sort of technical skills, but no soft skill at all. They don't know how to relate with people in a working environment. They don't know how to adapt to an environment. They don't know anything about work ethics. Some cannot own up to a fault, a little fault, or a little mistake that they made that could actually lead to a bigger problem. Some don't even have communication skills, time management skills. So I think all this should be put into consideration. And we know we can, there's little that we can do with government, but whatever we can do as the academia and the industry, we should do a lot of collaboration. We should build a relationship so that our students are going to benefit. And there's no way a country can grow without industrialization. And we all know most of us are not happy about the little things that are being imported in this country, and our engineering is not felt. This is the reason why governments will say, oh, engineers, they just discountenance Nigerian engineers, because most of the contracts or most of the jobs that are supposed to be given to engineers are actually given to contractors, people without any engineering background. People will mess up the job and then they begin to blame the engineer for not knowing anything. That's the reason they don't give us jobs. So I think we should push the regulatory body, the current NSC have a lot to do in that regard, to make us more visible and to ensure that engineering jobs are actually given to engineers so that they don't make us like we don't know anything, because that is a misconception that is going on around, like Nigerian engineers don't know anything, and it is not true. I remember some years back.
We have just 3 minutes.
Okay. Okay, so that's basically it. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm sure the conversation will definitely continue from here. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Woji, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to thank you again for starting this conversation, and I hope it will continue. A lot of things have started happening. We should catch it on two hands. We must have heard about the local content bill. Must have heard about the executive orders. As a vice president of Korean, I am in the know that these things contain a lot, especially our amended act that was ascended to by Mr. President last year. If we get into that and maximize what is there, this bridging will start. And there's also what we must go for, and that is feed, front-end engineering design. If that is done in Nigeria, it will avail our people of the necessary skills. Last word, the interface between the universities and the industries, between the lecturers and the industry, between the students, the lecturers, and the industries, we must explore every opportunity to make it very smooth and very fluid. I believe that once we start it well, in the next decade, the situation will be pleasantly different. Thank you for having me on. I enjoyed the session.
Thank you, Doctor. Nana, Engineer Nana.
All right, thank you, Alison. I was going to say my last words on soft skills, but Engineer Luremi has already touched on those. Thank you for this opportunity. I've actually learned a whole lot, especially from the other panelists and then from the chat feed as well. There's a couple of people. There's a Joel who is dropping a lot of insights that I've been enjoying reading it. Yeah, just to round up, I think that the time to foster this collaboration that we've been touching on is actually known. Professor Oni and Engineer Moji have highlighted a lot of problems in the process, and a lot of them seem like they will take time, and of course investments from the industry and from the government to solve. So two things I would end with. The first thing is an open question. So I'm 100% aligned with Professor Moji that this is possibly a personality problem. From my own experience, I'm more in touch with the lecturers that I had the best relationship with today, and we help each other from time to time. So should this be part of the lecturer hiring process? That's just an open question we can discuss later. And then the second final note here is for the students that are listening. Like I said, a lot of these problems will take a while to solve. So please remember to take ownership of your growth, and be sure to build yourselves outside of the classroom. It doesn't just end in the classroom. Please just remember that. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Engineer. And Professor Ani, please.
All right. I must start with thanking everybody that contributed in making this very, making this a reality. Honestly, we are one big family, the industry and the academia. If we can come together and work as one, the country will move forward, irrespective of whatever problems they are bringing. Because once academia and industry are together, our rightful position will be respected and given to us. Even the contracts will be our own in the entire Nigeria. So I thank you all once again, especially Dr. Ijoma, well, Anarado, because that's what I'm seeing, but I know her as Ijoma Nsukka. So you, Alison, it's good to know that you are still, you want to remember your home. That is the den.
Yes.
So please, all of you, keep remembering that you have a place to cover, and that is where you come from.
Yes, thank you, Professor.
So much. All right.
Yes, I have it on video of you and Dr. Moji saying I was smart, so I'm going to show that to my children and say this was said. So it's fantastic what Engineering for Industries is doing, because the first place to start is to have this conversation about where we are and where we want to be going. And this is a small forum, and it will continue to grow, because the first step towards solving a problem is identifying it. So it's fantastic, and it's a very important thing. I also want to go back and thank all the panelists, all the people, participants, you know, who have been firing us with lots of questions. Unfortunately, we can't go through all that, but I see there are questions directed at me. I see there are questions directed at Engineer Oluremi. You can contact a baby lecturer, and she will give you our numbers. You can call us. You know, somebody was asking, I think John Paul was asking about the skills required for renewable energy, and directed it to Oluremi. You know, you can contact us privately if you have any more questions to ask any of us. Like even in Nana, you can get a number from Ijoma. So it's important that we continue to have this conversation. And most of this comments we are going to be sharing with a lot more people, so that they can, who are not able to attend this. I especially, again, lastly, want to thank the people at E4I Engineering. The fantastic job you're doing, and keep it up. So thank you all very much again, and I'm handing over back to baby lecturer.
Thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you to for your insights, and thank you to our participants. It has been a very fun afternoon, and like everybody has said, we wish we could extend this, but we are going to upload this the recording of this video on YouTube, so it's going to be there permanently, and hopefully we can have more discussion on that. At this point, I specifically want to thank our sponsors, the ACT Foundation, and Engineering X, which is a collaboration from the Royal Academy of Engineering. So in order for us to close, I would just want to invite our lead partner in this project, E4I, the CEO of Clintonel Innovation Center, Aba, to give us just a rundown of some opportunities and some events that we have lined up for the E4I project. E4I is actually a 2-year project, and I would at this point invite Clinton to just give us the final words and then we close. Thank you for staying on.
Okay, thank you all. I'm very delighted that this is happening. It's been taking some time in the planning, but now from the planning we are now implementing, and today, is the first discussion, presentation that we are having on that. So I'd just like to run maybe as quickly as I can over the project, the Design for Industry project. So the Design for Industry project, of course, aims to achieve the following goals. One, to publish a white paper on the design skills gap, which will identify the gaps that are existing in the industry, and then profile solutions that will be like a blueprint that will guide in bridging this skills gap. Part of what we intend to do is to create a collaboration between the industry and the academia. And how we want to do that, we've set up a forum. Most of us have talked about the fact that we need to have this conversation to continue and to have an organized approach to this. So the good news is that under the E4I project, we have a forum which we call the Industry Academia Forum. And this Industry Academia Forum has the following mandates. One is to facilitate collaboration between the industry and the academia. So that's what the forum will be working on. The forum will also facilitate the commercialization of research output from our tertiary institutions. The forum will also translate industry problems, our local problems, into research topics in the tertiary institutions. So it will also facilitate the review of our engineering education curriculum. For the white paper, we have already started work on that. We have about 11 engineering lecturers from 11 tertiary institutions across the country, across all the zones, north, east, west, south. We have engineering lecturers who are members of this research team that is currently ongoing. So these lecturers will be interviewing and discussing with over 300 engineering professionals in different industries to get their view, get their opinion on the skills that are missing in their various industries, and then recommend solutions to that. So that's part of what that research team will do. So by the end of that research, we will be publishing a report, a white paper, which will list the findings of this research team, and which will also provide a guide, like a blueprint, on how to bridge this industry and academia skills gap. So there are a lot of opportunities for collaboration, and then part of what we also intend to do in the program is to extend this to the secondary schools. So we are going to be working in different secondary schools, set up STEM club, train people in STEM club, and inspire them, to, begin to aspire to become future engineers. And we are open to partnerships, we are open to collaborations. So on the screen is showing the contact details. You can reach us through the email on the screen, cic@clintonel.biz. The phone numbers are there. You can reach us, our websites are there. You can get in touch with us for further information. So we are open to collaborate with industry CEOs, with different industry, with different professionals, the regulatory agencies, COREN, NSE, NUC, all the stakeholders. We are open to collaborate with all the stakeholders towards working to fix this skills gap. So thank you again. Special thanks again to the organization supporting this program. Special thanks to the ACT Foundation Nigeria for supporting the E4I program. Again, special thanks to Engineering X which is an international collaboration founded by the Royal Academy of Engineering and the Leo's Register Foundation for supporting what we're doing. And then special thanks to all the panelists. Thank you for making our time. Thank you for the wonderful discussions that we've had. I'm so happy. I've learned so much. It's exciting having all the panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you, IJ, for putting these things together. This has taken you a lot of work, and I'm happy. So thank you. You did a great job on this. Thank you for all the participants. We had over 100 people participating from different parts of the country and even of the world. So we thank you all for the questions, for the comments, and for being a part of this. I want to assure us that we are on this project. It's already an ongoing project. So we will keep working on it. And I believe confidently that together with all the stakeholders, that will fix this skills gap in Nigeria, that we'll have a Nigeria which will create the technology that we consume, that we'll have a Nigeria which will be industrialized, create employment, create development, working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clinton, and I wish everybody a very happy afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome.